Welcome to Alpha Wolf Capital. I'm Tim, and I want to personally thank you for stopping by. This channel is designed to help small companies, both public and private, gain exposure with potential consumers, investors, even partners. Take, for example, today's guest, CEO Allan Evans from Unusual Machines, ticker symbol UMAC. Unusual Machines primarily specializes in the production and sale of small drones and essential components. They are a market leader in FPV drones, first person view. They plan to leverage their position in first person view drones, continue organic growth retail sales, and leverage that growth in retail to onshore production of critical drone components. Focus on component sales to the defense partners for FPV drones in US and Europe. Donald Trump Jr. recently joined their board. They are a former spinoff from Red Cat, which just won the SRR Army contract. And I'm going to let Allan tell you more in just a moment. This is not to be taken as investment advice. I am not a certified financial planner. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. I encourage everyone to do their own due diligence.
Just re
Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Capital coming at you with a follow-up to a somewhat hot name out there in the marketplace right now. You might have heard of them. UMAC, Unusual Machines. We've got Allan Evans, the CEO, who I love talking to every time. Very spirited conversations. And Allan, did you have some news recently?
it's been a good couple of weeks. I think the couple of big pieces of news actually. So if you're tracking our share price, you can kind of see where these happen. The first piece was Red Cat Holdings, RCAT, who we're publicly a partner with and we're a spin out of. They won the SRR program record. So you'd start to see that drift where, hopefully we can win some of the supply side contracts from them. If they need parts, we know some of the guys over there with Jeff on our board. So I think you saw that that was like the first piece of news that I think that really came out that caught a chunk of the drone industry going back. And then right before Thanksgiving, we were actually able to announce that Donald Trump Jr. joined our advisory board. And that I think that just continued a lot of the interest in the drone segment and in us in particular. And this is coming at the same time that you're seeing a lot of other indicators like Musk tweeting that we shouldn't do F-35s anymore. And I think a lot of the incoming administration really looking at new technologies through Doge. And then China comes out with the gallium antimony ban where you start to see supply chain stuff. And so, yeah, it's been, I think the wider world is waking up to some of the stuff we've been anticipating here for a little while and trying to get in front of.
So, I since I met you, I mean, I liked you right off the bat, and one of the biggest reasons I appreciate you is you're very transparent, very unusual uh, approach to letting your shareholders know, look, this is where we're at, this is what we're going to do, this is our plan moving forward. Can you? When that was in our last segment, right? And can you just kind of like give everybody an update on how that plan progressed?
Sure. I think last time we were talking about a financing, right? And we did the pipe above market. And we had said, okay, we're also broadcasting our next financing and we're putting these warrants out there even further out. So, and we also set it up so we could convert our debt and clean up everything on our balance sheet. Well, I think with the really positive price action, if you look, we're filing the 8Ks. We have no convertibles left. We have no debt left. We were able to convert some of the warrants. We'll have one more set of warrants associated with this pipe. And we've been able to do all this without hurting any of our long-term investors. We take that very seriously. We don't want to put investors that believe in the company long-term in a place where they have to worry about being surprised. And so it's all out there. We're executing now. So people, like, oh, are you going to do a big raise? We're still following through on the one we said we'd do before by converting the warrants, right? So I think when you look at where we're at here or what we would do there, we're doing that and exercising that. We're in a place where we don't immediately need cash. We're still fiscally disciplined. If you look at the last quarter, our numbers came out. We burned $500,000, pretty much what we said we'd burn. That'll increase a little now as we see the opportunity to accelerate into the market. But yeah, I think if you look at how we're managing our capital strategy, February 14th is our 1 year anniversary. That's when we could put an S3 out there. So, I think sometime in February we can have a conversation about what going forward from there looks like. But from here to there, like we gotta finish the last one first. But I woke up today feeling really good because all of the debt, everything it's all clean, and the last things worked. So we're here and we're ready to rock.
Right. So I mean, even if these opportunities with NATO countries and these huge opportunities don't come through, you still have a consumer business that's growing at what?
Yeah, it's been roughly 20% year over year historically, but I think we're doing a little better than that this year. I mean, we'll see at the end of the year. We're not sure, but if you look, every single quarter has been our best quarter. And the last quarter was our best quarter, and that's out of the cyclical phase with the seasonality. So the team there is doing just a great job, and I would be surprised if this holiday wasn't, the best quarter of all time for us being public. So the retail business is working great, and then our enterprise segment, I mean, we're currently being tested for potential orders of, you know, 100,000 a month, I think is the demand indicator out of Europe right now. So would we win it all? Who knows, right? I would always encourage people to diversify their supply chains, but the different parts that are being tested and stuff, that's a $20 million a month potential opportunity that we could hear about, and we have some of the other parts being audited by the US military to be included on the blue list. So we're hoping to hear back on some of those
You
audits
know,
for some of those other parts.
I'm glad you brought that up because for entertainment value, I like to troll on stock twits and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. You're
And
that user. You're the guy who just puts it out there.
no, I'm the guy that
Oh, okay.
reads it.
Oh,
I'm the guy that reads
okay.
it. I don't.
Okay.
I usually try
Mm.
not to comment, right? Because I don't want to get into a little spat. But
Long time listener, first time caller kind of thing. Yeah, I gotcha.
yeah.
I gotcha.
So I'm just seeing some things that maybe I don't know. Maybe there's shorts that are trying that are caught that are trying to save their ass. I don't know, but when I see statements or some stuff taken from the S what was it? Was it the S3 or S? I don't know what it was, but it's talking about the parts that you have in some of like your controller, for example, right? Uh, it basically saying this is just a basically a Chinese product that you just stamp USA on.
Yeah. So the Brave 7 is audited by the Defense Innovation Unit, not by us, for the blue list. They check for cyber and country of origin requirements. So I would say that it's audited and published by the US military. Yeah, I mean, okay. You take what you want to read, otherwise, is what you want to read. Like, we're very open that we do sell and buy a lot of Chinese parts through our store. There's a lot of great Chinese companies that we buy from, but anything that is blue that we say is compliant is audited by the military for use by government organizations. Um, and we take that very seriously. Like, we're very transparent
But
and
I
work
don't
with them,
think
and I
you would
think they do a
actually
great
lie.
job.
You wouldn't lie to like the military or Department of Defense, right? You would try to pull a fast one and say, "Well, yeah, that's made in China, but we forgot to tell you."
Yeah, yeah, no. Yeah, it turns out that if you do that and you get caught, they don't ever want to buy your stuff. Like you
Oh,
don't get a second chance.
yeah.
So as a, a lot of I think what we do and a lot of what we try to do with shareholders and partners and everything is there's a lot of trust that goes into the supply chain. Like you have to trust your suppliers, and we wouldn't want to do anything to erode that because it would destroy our ability to be a business. I mean, we're pretty candid. We're like, yeah, that came from China, and there are some chips that are okay to come from China, like resistors can come from China. There's some companies that manufacture chips both in China and Taiwan and have a bunch of different factories. And, you don't always need to be sure you have the right country code on ones that don't matter. But we call out everything that might even be potentially Chinese when we submit it. And we're like, okay, these could be, take a longer look at this military. Like, you know, we're not, I don't know. Pulling a fast one would be really stupid.
Yeah,
So
that would
no.
be about as dumb as dumb could get, right? So you don't come
Yeah.
across me as a dumb guy, Alan. I'm just gonna say that.
I'm pretty tricky then. I fooled you.
So look, I'm sure everyone is very curious. I know that I am. How did the whole thing with Donald Trump Jr. come about?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. Our banker, Kyle at Dominari, who has been really great, his offices are in Trump Tower. So, we were the first IPO they ever did, and he was talking to him about it, and he was interested. And so the conversation carried forward. And actually, if you see, he was on the S1 filing for the pipe. So he was able to participate in that. But with the election and what we're doing, uh, it potentially being a distraction to some of the bigger things going on in the world at the time, during the election rather than not, it took a little longer to figure it out, but we're really glad to have somebody, I think, connected to the investment community. If you look at like 1789 and other aspects of what he looks at, of the value investing community, where the values of those investors really match the values we're trying to achieve as a company with, onshoring certain types of production, diversifying supply chains, sort of establishing competitiveness and elements of American industries where we're maybe falling behind globally as competitors. So I think the alignment is really just great. And it opens up the door for us to a whole class of investors that might not look at a company of our profile yet. And I think that is going to give us a really kind of a leg up, a company like ours with the share price event that we had over the holiday. 100 times out of 100, you would tell the CEO to go take as much money at any kind of discount possible in whatever deal there is, in microcap land and just put the cash in the bank. And, in this case, was able to talk to our advisors and stuff. And they're like, yeah, don't do that. Like, we can go talk to, like, you can get a different kind of investor that has value alignment. So even that changes how we get to operate. We we get to look at the world with a kind of these extra tools over what you'd see for a traditional microcap company. And at the same time, it means we're not forgotten. Other potential drone companies, they look at us and they go, okay, we can work with these guys. Why? Well, obviously they're not total clowns. They're able to get people involved that uh, uh, you know and reach levels of awareness that help you get above the noise, which I do think is a real challenge in today's world. And so it's a really good signaling function that, yeah, we are able to get above the noise.
It's funny. I trolled the Yahoo Finance Board after that announcement. I don't think there was one out of like 500 statements, or I don't think there was one positive thing said. It was so mind blowing to me because I look at this and say, I mean, look, uh, whatever political affiliation people have, I actually hate all politics, really. I mean, I hate it all because I think each side goes too far. to one side or the other. So I guess I would say I'm an independent, but that would make me a weirdo. So, I liked what happened in this country because I feel like we are on the verge of a golden era. I, I really feel that way. I feel like the small caps have been getting pounded for 40 something months, and real innovation happens there. There are great companies that nobody knows about. And you would be one of those. But you, not anymore. I mean, I think everybody knows who you are now, but you could have been one of those. And I just feel like because of technology, because of AI, because of all these things, this is going to be an amazing time. And now you have what appears to be a very motivated administration to do good things for America, and that excites the hell out of me, man. Right?
Yeah, I agree with you. So, most days I wake up, and generally today is the best day in the history of the world. There might be a few days that are step back, but pretty much every day that I wake up is probably the best day in the history of the world in terms of um, all of it. And I think a lot of it's driven by technology and has been. And you see aspects of, if we're taking a step back, you look at the influence that sort of Musk has on the administration and Doge and everything else. I think you're going to see a little more appetite for the integration of technologies with a little bit more of a risk profile, right? I would say autonomous cars right now on the freeway would probably save lives if we just said, "Yep, this is done. Go autonomous cars." There's some agency that gets taken away that is scary to people, and there's going to be some okay, there'll be accidents, and they won't be your fault; they'll be the robot's fault. And so that loss of agency, I think, is really upsetting to some people. But if you look across society as a whole, doing that sooner will save a lot of lives and time. And these all become infrastructure elements because once there's autonomous vehicles, delivery costs go down. Once delivery costs go down, it gets cheaper to get food to people in food deserts, right? And so I think people look at any one of these individual movements and forget that they become a foundation for a pyramid for what's next. And what I'm really excited about is I think you're going to see this administration, and I think the American people and everybody in business, I do think we see this opportunity to start to build this new foundation. I think you're seeing it in drones. We're seeing the displacement of all the Chinese drones politically, and I think we're going to see a reinvention of airspace and autonomy there, and have it done so that it matches America a little bit rather than is more generic. And I think you're going to see it in a lot of other places. You're seeing it in space already. I mean, with stuff like Starlink or the emergency services that Apple's turned on that you saw people use during the hurricane, right? Like, come on. And so, I find people when they're negative about what we're trying to do, right? Like, we're trying to build drone parts in the US for the American drone industry. Um, what okay, maybe you think that the people are assigning a certain value to us that is maybe not what you think it should be, but how can you, how do you, like, why, I, y- why do we have to be angry about it? Right? Like, that's what I don't understand. We're trying to do something that we think is, generally a pretty good thing. And so we're excited about it. Eh, But yeah, I don't understand why people go around and bash. I mean, you're getting this interview from me like from the residence inn. If you looked, all I've done is put my own money into the company and reduce my salary to do that. It's not it's not like it's not scammy, like it's real. We're trying to do a thing. So why do people gotta hate on us trying to do a thing? You
Yeah.
know?
Uh, I,
So
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. I mean, look, I think you deserve every bit of it. I mean, the Trump thing definitely took me by surprise, but I'm so excited because for many reasons, not just for you, the company. I just know the quality of person you are, and you have a path now to share some of the knowledge that you have and some of the, and I think it's just going to be good all the way around. I think it's going to be a good thing for the country. I'm so happy that you have that connection because it's going to be impactful. I believe it's going to be impactful. And I want to say this, the fact that the small caps have been pounded for 42 punts says to me this, that anybody, and I mean anybody, could scrape change out of their couch and their car and buy stock in companies that can have a tremendous impact on the planet and nobody knows about them. Literally, they're in the sense, but they're real companies. And this is, if you're smart, try to educate yourself and try to find these companies that are going to make a difference in not just America, but in the world. And that's how you close that gap between the haves and the have nots. I mean, Wall Street focuses on all the elites. That's your advantage. They're not, they're too big to focus on these little companies. They can't even buy them, right? So that's opportunity. Being able to pick,
Yeah, I would say
go ahead.
I would say there's something really interesting here as an operator at a company, and I came out of venture, and there's one magical aspect of being public, and that's you know the ability for investors to manifest an outcome. And I'll give you an example because we're pretty candid over here. Investors right now are saying we're at a certain value. Uh, and that then gives us a currency. And I would say we can go now look. There are a lot of private companies that are trying to do the same thing. You could go look at the whole blue framework list and get a ton of them. And if any of those entities match profiles where we'd want them to be part of the team, we now have a resource to go put stuff together faster. And or you have a resource to bring in and hire employees or whatever else. And so the the faith that investors put into a thing, which is somebody always told me it was a predictive market, the price that you're predicting that it'll happen. But that prediction then provides a resource that allows that prediction to become self-fulfilling. And so one of the things that I'm the most proud of as we've gone through here is that we've been very candid about everything. And so because we've succeeded in what we've done, any of the investors that have invested for a long term have all seen an opportunity to see a positive return. We haven't done anything to do damage to investors. Traders, traders are going to be trading, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, but the investors that put the faith out there have been in a position to, we can then use the tangible value of that faith as a resource to build an avalanche. And so I see it particularly with the drone industry being an open marketplace, with the American Securities Drone Act hitting in 2025, and probably the Countering Chinese Communist Party Drone Act, which is going to kick out DJI, very likely going into the NDAA, in January. Like, it's 2 years. We don't have to make a market. It's going to take, in that period of time, you're going to see who the winners and losers in the segments are. And the faith that investors put in the company now allows us to be more likely to win more of those segments faster and harder. I think if you look, Tesla did this really well for a long time. Amazon did this really well for a long time. There was this forward-looking valuation rather than a backward-looking valuation for those companies with faith in what was going on. And that created this resource that allowed them to really realize that outcome. So that's the thing I'm the most excited about now, is as one of those small companies where we were, 10 years ago, 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 we were, 10 years probably not well known. We've been able to prove that, okay, we can get reach, and we've completely cleaned up our cap table, right? There's nothing on there as a derivative of anything now, except for the few warrants from the pipe that are the last part of our financing strategy that we talked about before. Everything else has been done. So it's not complicated.
You don't have
Like,
any consideration to one shareholder, right? I
no,
mean,
none. Nobody's more than 10%, right? So, and nobody's more than 10% on a fully diluted basis. So, okay, here we are. We're a fully autonomous company working for a large group of people with an asset to now avalanche this thing in a place where there aren't just these great, unheard of public companies. There are these great, unheard of, undervalued private companies. And in order to win, we don't need 37 little people fighting each other. We need to all come together in a few teams to really, I think, build a robust ecosystem. And I very strongly believe the drone industry and the components of the drone industry are going to see a lot of consolidation over the next 2 years as it narrows down. If you look, Red Cat acquired FlightWave, and you see elements there. AeroVironment recently acquired Blue Halo. I think you're going to see a lot of the super teams start to form rather than individual teams. And I think with this level of investor faith, we're positioned to be one of the places where a super team can form. And everybody that works for the company is great. We all have alignment. I think there are going to be other groups that could fit in there. So I I think that aspect of this gets overlooked. And that's one of the things where now I think we have a chance to really go fast.
all right. So let me ask you a question. When you say, I know you're not going to give me all your secrets, but I mean, when you, where are you at right now? I mean, you said you woke up, you feel better than you've ever because the overhang's gone, right? So, but what in your vision of where you're going, what is the next most crucial step?
Really starting to get more of our parts through the blue process and audited, and building that out, getting more of the enterprise component sales going. And I think at the same time, exploring what a bigger version of this company looks like, so let's continue to really drive that business engine, which I think is going great. But hardware sales cycle is not instantaneous. And then say, okay, uh, between organic and acquisition growth, where does this land as where do we see the future in the next 2 years, and where do we see us being able to potentially be a really solid supplier? So, we're in the process of all that right now. Uh, you never know what it exactly looks like because it's bigger than just me, and but I think our next real target as a company is to get to cash flow positive. And I think to do that, we got to grow some, and we still have to maintain discipline. But I would say, all right, I feel great right now because it's just past the 1 year anniversary of me taking the CEO job. We haven't even been a public company for a year. With the warrant conversions, we have at least as much cash as the day we IPO'd. We Red Cat owned 48% the day we IPO'd. We no longer have shareholder concentration. We had 4 million in debt when we IPO'd. We don't have any debt. We didn't have to dilute our shareholders to mercilessly to achieve that. They were able to see positive gains, and we had great relationships with them. And really, I'd say the next corporate goal is to grow enough uh, to reach cash flow positive, and then yeah, reinvest in ourselves as fast as we can.
I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. Right? This is. I think you told me once the automotive industry when the automotive industry started, somebody decided that cars were going to need tires.
Yeah, yeah, they did need tires.
Yeah, turns out you were right.
Yeah, well,
Still need
what's
them
great,
today.
they do. I had an investor who I think was trying to make a point. He's like, "Oh, so you're a parts company? Ugh, how is that ever going to be big, right?" And I was like, "NVIDIA's a parts company." And he goes, "Okay, good point." It was just It's like you're like, yeah, like there's the market, like it's cool. Not saying that we're Nvidia, but you could be pretty big as a parts company. It was just sort of, I think it's a valid marketplace. And if you look in 2023, the parts, just the drone parts for the backpack size drones, so our size category globally was a $20 billion revenue, and 90 to 95% of that revenue was serviced by Chinese companies. So if you're looking to diversify your supply chain to non-Chinese companies, let's even say 30%. That means in 2023, the potential TAM for us was $6 billion in revenue, and that's probably been growing. So my guess is if we nail it and win the whole thing, our actual TAM is probably $10 billion a year. So I would also say, do we have potential upside for our market cap? Probably. It's like, and I think this is all going to happen in 2 years. So we're really just trying to do everything we can to position to be the winner in as many of those segments as possible. But we really, really believe that cash flow positive is the next thing because, I think you've seen a lot of flame outs in companies or a lot of elements where if you don't also pay attention to cash, which we've always done, I think pretty thoughtfully, then you build a business structure that doesn't realize value long term because it never figured out how to realize value on a per unit basis. So that's really what we see as kind of our goal.
So after this, like the last of the warrants convert. So where does that put you at total amount of shares outstanding?
About 15 million, somewhere right around there. So, again, we didn't have to dilute a whole lot to put ourselves in a position to really go after this and see value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back for a second. So 15 million shares outstanding. And what did you say? I think I could have swore I heard you say a number about just from the NATO part.
Yeah, if we got the super bulk of that order, you'd be talking about $20 million a month.
That's
So
what I
you could
think.
argue that we could probably do a dollar a month in revenue if we nail per share, a dollar per share a month in revenue. If things work out really well and we get some of those orders. So that's like of course don't expect it. I expect we're going to have to grind our way to a win, but if something like that happens, I think it would be favorable.
Right. I want to hammer on something else real quick. If I guess I was thinking if as a manufacturer of drone parts that you were going to need this big facility with all this equipment, and that isn't where you're headed right now. That's not the focus of the plan, right?
No, what we're doing is we're working with partners across the board. And then I think if you look at the history of Red Cat or even at how this company got started, you partner and then acquire. Like we're not trying to build competitive stuff. We're trying to build robust audited supply chains. And I think at the right time with the right partners, we can integrate it to provide them with a path toward liquidity as we continue to work together. I mean, that's the advantage of being public is we don't have to organically grow the different production facilities. We can collaborate with people that already have these starting points to go faster, figure out where and how to do the additional things that are necessary. And then if it makes sense and it's a reasonable bet value for everybody involved, we can, very quickly integrate it rather than have to restart or redo or repurpose. So, we do final assembly in Orlando. We work primarily with a board manufacturing house in Ohio that we have a great relationship with. We're trying to figure out what capital goods we need to do, like machining. Carbon fiber is an example. A lot of people get that out of China right now, and so we're looking at how we maybe bring that in-house. So we might build out the production facility to do that. It is each sub component has its own path and then its own derived path below that. And we're willing to look at very specifically what each subcomponent needs and what we need to do to, um, be successful with that subcomponent. In some cases, it is putting in place the capex and building out the factory ourselves, and others it's partnering and then potentially integrating them through what we call as a paper swap. Like it's you don't have somebody quit. What you say is, okay, you have private paper. Let's just trade you. This is not an exit. This is you joining the team. But we only want to do that with people we like that fit our ethos and that we get along with. Like we take that pretty seriously because as you go through this together, obviously it's not always perfect. And so you don't want to figure out the hard stuff with people that you have trouble working with.
Right. So I guess the point I want to drive home is there is not this burning desire to have this huge capex expenditure, right? I mean, there's just not there. It's not there. You've got a very clear vision of where you want to go and how you want to get there.
Yeah, we want to solve our customers' problem and we want to do it as quickly and as financially effectively as possible. Now, that all being said, for certain aspects, if you want to look at how we'd finance large capex, the Office of Strategic Capital is an example that has a call out for, very reasonable loans that they're going to look at reviewing in the new year for companies like ours that service other companies. And so, we have some opportunity maybe to go get to finance the capex through organizations that are interested in it existing and not doing it through equity or through maybe traditional lenders that don't have terms that are as good. So I think if we see an opportunity to do some of that and we see the terms that are super reasonable, then we will obviously explore it and make those decisions. So, it's all we're just really trying to solve the customer's problem, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it done.
Alan, I got to tell you, man, exciting stuff. I mean, I'm just so excited. I can't. I mean, I'm so excited for you. Look, I am in the stock, and I didn't feel as though I had a full position, and I definitely feel as though I didn't have a full position, and that is the way it goes, right? I mean, but this is a great story. This is a great story that I think is going to continue to be great. I think it's going to get greater, and I'm really looking forward to following the progress of the company. It's just so exciting to me.
Hey, I really appreciate it. And, I do think a couple of things are great for investors. Like obviously the profile here is a much higher liquidity profile. So it's a lot easier now to look at it and not feel like you're going to get in there. We're above penny stock land. So for institutions, they could come take a look, which is fun. But, I'd still say the same thing we say at the end of all these is like buy one share, follow along,
The
you
first
know,
first CEO to ever say that to me was buy one share. Not go all in, just buy one. It
yeah.
follow along, right?
That's all. I'd still encourage people to do it. Like you don't just, we appreciate the support and then do what you think's right for you. And so but I still feel that way. Like, you know, I don't know what else to say.
When you said that, I think that the stock was somewhere around $1.50 or so.
Yep. Somewhere in there.
One share, just buy one. It'd be worth nine
Yep.
bucks today.
Yep.
I mean,
Hey, I mean, and you get to pay attention. You get to build trust. You get to understand that, you get to see if we do what we say we do on time. Like, there are a lot of people that this might be the first time they hear about our company. And so they don't have the same history, the same relationship. And so start a relationship. That's all I want.
I love that about you, man. I love what you're doing, Alan. I hope you're around for a long, 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 long time. I really do.
I appreciate it, Tim. I always enjoy it, and I always enjoy our conversations. Thank you.
Do you ever feel you feel like I have missed anything here?
Uh, not really. I mean, from my end, at a really high level, we really appreciate all the investors, and we think that investors are part of what we're doing. So the people that are really interested in us bringing stuff back, uh, that you help make it self-fulfilling, and that part we really appreciate because it's a lot of work, but also we think everybody's money's precious, and we appreciate when they put faith in us to hopefully realize that value.
You know, I guess maybe the one thing I would like to highlight, and you and I talked about this the first time that we met. Where do you think we are in terms of really having a full understanding of what drones and autonomous equipment, I guess, even not just drones, but uh, where do you think we are in that?
So what, the Model T was 1913, so somewhere around the equivalent of 1913 for the auto industry. Like, we're seeing what they are, we're starting to do stuff, but I honestly believe that the autonomous aviation industry across the board is going to be similar in size to the automotive industry and the current aerospace industry. So I think you're going to see a third logistics category that's going to be similar size. And so I think we're very, very early on, and we don't understand the second and third order implications of what's going to happen over the next 20 to 30 years.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, when I think of drones, I mean, it's not just air, it's not just ground, it's water too. I mean, it's literally this is we are it's such the beginning stage of this. And maybe that scares some people, Terminator. But you're not going to stop it. It's not going back in the bottle. I'll tell you that right now. Right.
Definitely not. And I think, I joke, like, one of the things I joke about is humanity sort of lives 2.5D. Like, we're all on the flat surface and then we go up in elevators, and I think with autonomous, you're going to see a lot more of the three-dimensional space be utilized. So I think we're over the next 20 or 30 years, we're going to see the surface of the earth move from a 2.5D utilization to a 3D utilization. And I think it's going to be profound. But that's a different conversation. That's a futurist conversation that we'd have to get on.
Yeah, but you know what? You're at the center of it all. That's what's so exciting to me, right? I mean, you're not going to be limited to just, at least in my view, I don't think you're just going to be limited to just drones. I think there's a whole robotic thing coming. And I think you
Yeah,
are
they all got to work together. I agree.
right.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that, of course, you're now getting into 5-year vision mapping and stuff. And we understand, look, we're not private. All right. You're not a VC. I'm not pitching you on an exit 8 years from now. Like, we got to hit our points along the way. So I think the next point is cash flow positive. And then you can be like, okay, now that you're cash flow positive, what are you going to do? And I'm going to be like, well, now we can go on a vision quest. But I think the first thing we have to do is still shore up the company so that, it's rocking and rolling.
Alan, look, man, I want to make sure that you and we keep these things coming, right? I mean, on a fairly consistent basis. What I hate is when a company has like, you know, 15 press releases, and then it's like, let's do the interview, and I got 15 things that I think are important, right? That I want to address. So let's try and keep them short in between. That way, it keeps you happy because we keep the interview down, right?
I don't know. This is the best part of my day. Talking to you is better than, talking to those shorts who think we're making our stuff in China. They're mean on the phone. No, no, reach out anytime, of course. And like I said, it's always appreciated. This is, I think we do a lot of stuff that's a lot shorter for people that want to do bite-sized stuff. But I think the consistency of the format and all of that, this is where, I think you and a few other places are where we actually really go into a lot of the long form stuff. So for the people who watch it this far in, who want to understand, what we think of as what they think of me or how we really think as a company, I think is a great forum, and appreciate the people who care and want to spend the time to go through that. So thank you for all four of you that have watched this far into the video. You guys are the best. Uh, we really appreciate the time you put into to understanding it all.
I love that, man. All right, brother. Look, that was funny. I gotta check out on that one. All right, listen, people. I'm not gonna hammer this. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. What I would suggest is just buy one share, just one, and keep an eye on what's happening with unusual machines because I think the story is really, really just getting started. Thanks again, Alan. Hold on one second. I'm gonna shut this off. Hey there, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's interview with CEO Allan Evans from Unusual Machines, ticker symbol UMAC. If you did enjoy today's video, do us a favor, give us a like. How about giving us a share? While you're at it, make sure you smash that subscribe button. All of those things are extremely important to us here at Alpha Wolf Capital, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Capital wishes you the very best of success.